What's up, guys? It's Josh here, back with another Kansas City Chiefs related video. And today I wanted to discuss my four biggest winners and losers from the Kansas City Chiefs' first preseason game. The Chiefs finally got back to football, a real football game. Their first week of preseason action a couple days ago against the 49ers. The game resulted in a 19-16 win over the 49ers for the Kansas City Chiefs. It was a fun game. There was a lot to take away from it, although you can't put too much stock into a lot of things because it is still preseason. We have to acknowledge that, but as fans, we naturally we want to come to conclusions based off a preseason game. We want to look for talking points. We want to look for stuff to talk about, and I definitely found stuff to talk about that I'm going to be discussing here, and I'm sure you guys all have your own thoughts too, but we also still just need to acknowledge that it's only week one of preseason, so nothing really is set in stone right now, but obviously preseason still does matter to an extent, and this is where guys, can win their jobs, and I definitely think some players jumped up a little bit, and I definitely think some players came down a little bit after week one of preseason, so I got four of them for each. I wanted to do a little bit more, but I didn't want to make the video too long. I didn't want to make the list too long. There's so many to talk about. I could only cut it down to four for each, but if you guys think I missed any, go ahead and leave it in the comments. But all that being said, without further ado, let's get into my four winners and four losers from Kansas City Chiefs preseason game one. Starting it off with my first winner from the preseason game one, wide receiver Darice Fountain. Darice Fountain is someone that not a lot of people talk about, but from everything I've heard, by all accounts, has had a really good training camp. Matt Derrick over at Chiefs Digest even said that he has caught basically everything that's been thrown his way this training camp, and he's someone that really hasn't gotten a great shot in the NFL yet. He had some bad luck in Indianapolis where he was before he came to Kansas City. He showed some flashes of potential in the past, but maybe this is the year that he can solidify himself as a NFL caliber wide receiver. And I like to quote the guys over at RGR Football a lot. Ryan Tracy, he's my guy. I do it all the time, though, because they do really good stuff. I mean, they have a lot of great things to say, and if you guys haven't already checked them out, please go do that. RGR Football right here on YouTube. But Ryan Tracy over there, he said that Darice Fountain is one of the top 10 athletic profiles that he has analyzed over the last 10 years at the receiver position. So every year, Ryan, he comes up with the athletic matrix, which basically measures a player's athleticism and a lot of the stuff that they're able to do. The Chiefs love athleticism and players, which is why they drafted guys like Tyreek Hill and Nickell Hardman, because Nickell Hardman and Tyreek Hill are two other players that have been in his top 10 athletic profiles over the last decade. So Darice Fountain, like, the talent is there, the athleticism is there, but he was very good in the first preseason game in limited action. He had 4 catches for 38 yards, and I think had a really nice outing. So I definitely think he has a great chance to be one of those top 5 or 6 receivers on the roster when it comes to cut down day. I think Darice Fountain made a case for himself. My second winner from the Chiefs' first preseason game is wide receiver / tight end Jody Forsen. I've said it multiple times now in my past videos that Jody Forsen, I didn't want to buy into him again, even though I love him, because I felt like that at the end of the day, I was going to fall in love with him, I was going to buy in, and the Chiefs were just going to cut him or relegate him to the practice squad like they've done in years past. Because every single year now, Jody Forsen has had a great training camp. He's made some great plays in the preseason, and it just doesn't really translate to anything. But I think Jody Forsen really took a step in the first preseason game, especially with that one-handed grab to lead the charge for the Chiefs at the end of the game there that put him ahead. He had a nice one-handed catch for 19 yards. He had a few more catches. Looks really good. Got a lot of run on special teams too, which is where I think he can also help his case for making the roster if he can contribute on special teams. And he has contributed on special teams in the past, like in the Green Bay Packers preseason game a couple years ago. Jody Forsen was able to force a fumble because he's got those really long arms that helps him get in there and make plays. And I've been saying all along that it would just be a crime to not use Jody Forsen because, I mean, his size is just unfathomable. I mean, his catch radius is insane. The Chiefs need to use someone like him. Like, literally, just use this guy in the red zone. Seriously, just have Patrick Mahomes lob it up to Jody Forsen when you get in the red zone. It's going to be a touchdown every time. Like, I'm not saying Jody Forsen is the next coming of Megatron, but, I mean, he's got that frame. It would be a crime not to use that. And every time he's gotten game action, he's done stuff like I've been talking about. Like, he makes plays. Like, his catch radius, it's insane. The Chiefs, it would be a crime for them not to take advantage of that. And I've been really disappointed in years past where they give guys like Garrett Dieter chance after chance, calling him up to the roster. I know last year there were a couple times that I mentioned the Chiefs had some roster spots open because some guys were out for COVID, and they brought up Garrett Dieter, and I'm like, why? There's guys with more upside like Jody Forsen. Like, give Jody Forsen his shot. He deserves it. He's been progressing every single year, and I think this is finally the year that he makes the roster and gets some game action. So I definitely think Jody Forsen made a leap. My third winner from the first preseason game, I'm going to combine these two just because it makes it a little bit easier, and they both play the same position. Mike Hughes and Deandre Baker, the kind of unknown commodities at cornerback heading into the preseason. We heard a lot of good things about them. We wanted to believe, but I think they both definitely showed some good things. Mike Hughes didn't really show that much as a cornerback, but where he made his case is on special teams. They used him as a returner, and he looked fantastic. It was really refreshing. I know last year Nickell Hardman was pretty disappointing on returns. I think a lot of people got sick of him. But it was refreshing to see someone like Mike Hughes with his speed and his field vision able to run people over and get some actual good yards on returns. He looked really good. I'm excited about him. I definitely think he's going to make this roster. I had questions if he would even make the roster just because, I mean, he rarely played for the Vikings. He had a lot of injuries. That's another thing we're going to have to watch, though. Is it really all that much of a great idea to put someone who has had really bad injuries in the past on returns where you can easily get hurt? But so far, he looks to be handling the role pretty well. But I definitely liked what I saw out of Mike Hughes, and hopefully we see him progress more as a cornerback, too. And then there's Deandre Baker. I believe he was targeted 6 or 7 times in the game and did not allow a completion on any of them. And you also just have to highlight the fact how impressive it is that he's back and playing in a preseason game after gruesomely breaking his leg in half in week 17 of last year. Like, I don't think anyone thought he would be at this stage already, but he's back to playing. He's practicing every day. It's really amazing how quick his recovery has been, but I definitely think both of those guys did some good things in the first preseason game. My fourth and final winner from the preseason game, and I'm happy to talk about this one, Collin Saunders. Everyone knows I've been critical of Collin Saunders. He just hadn't really shown much. I was afraid that he may not make the roster. And look, he still may not make the roster, but if he doesn't, preseason game 1 won't be why, because he was consistently getting pressure on the quarterback. He even had a sack in the game. Collin Saunders, like I said, he needed to do something to separate himself from the rest of the pack because, remember, he was inactive for most of last year. Tershawn Wharton jumped ahead of him on the depth chart, and then the Chiefs brought in Jarron Reed, so his path wasn't getting any easier this offseason. But, however, he impressed, and I gotta say, he proved me wrong a little bit because I said that I don't think he's going to make the roster. I said that he might be cut, all this stuff, that he wasn't all that impressive, a waste of a third-round pick, a top 100 pick, but he had a good game. And if he continues to impress and what the coaching staff is saying about him in training camp is true, that they love him and, he's been great in camp and everything, then I think Saunders may stick around, which is a good thing because you want that draft pick to work out. But Saunders definitely had a good game. Heading over to my 4 losers now, I'm going to start with rookie tight end Noah Gray. So Noah Gray, someone everyone, including me, was excited about. He was getting a ton of praise in training camp. He was getting a ton of reps in training camp. It seemed like the Chiefs were trying to quickly integrate him into the offense so they could use him a lot. But preseason game 1, in his limited reps, he had a target, which resulted in a drop and an interception. And for someone who was seen as a sure-handed receiving threat coming out of college, that's definitely not what you want to see. And look, the throw was a little bit behind him if you go back and watch it, but also it's one of those plays where I still feel like he should have caught it. And if he's as good as everyone is touting him to be, he should have caught that ball. And we can't have that in games where you're dropping a ball like that ends up in a defender's hand. I don't think Noah Gray helped himself. I'm not saying he's in danger of losing a roster spot or anything like that. Like, look, he's still learning. He's still a rookie. The Chiefs, they have him in their plans, but he definitely did not have a good outing in the first preseason game. And yeah, I mean, he'll have to improve from there. Someone who's kind of in the same boat, but is now going to be a third-year player is Nickell Hardman. He's going to be my second loser from the first preseason game. Again, limited snaps, only preseason game 1, but you didn't see any progression from him after everyone said that he's ready to take that wide receiver 2 leap, and he came into camp as the number 2 wide receiver on the depth chart. He gets a pass from Patrick Mahomes in the first preseason game that if he caught it would have resulted in a first down, I believe, kept the chains moving. Instead, he drops it and nearly intercepted. Nickell should have had that. He should have caught that. And Nickell, he had the highest drop rate on this team last year. So in order to become a more complete receiver, he has to cut down on the drops. And he definitely didn't do that in preseason game 1. Again, one play, first preseason game. Everyone's getting, acclimated to real NFL games again. But Nickell Hardman as a third-year player, you got to be better than that. And he certainly didn't show any progression in the game. So here's to hoping that Nickell Hardman shows a little bit more going forward. My third loser from the first preseason game, Devon Key, the undrafted free agent safety. He has gotten a lot of praise in training camp, as have a lot of guys. But Key is someone that a lot of people think is the UDFA with the best chance to make the roster. Well, he certainly didn't help his case against the 49ers because on Trey Lance's 80-yard bomb, he got burnt. He had no idea where to be and just looked pretty bad. Now, he still had some nice plays in the game, but when you allow a 80-yard touchdown like that, it's just not great. It's not a great look. And look, he's still an undrafted free agent rookie, so that could just be him, still getting used to the NFL speed. And I get it. He's probably still coming along, and he probably needed that moment where he got burnt. So he's like, oh, okay, so never do that again. Like, you got to be in the better spot and not, be too aggressive to make a play, or else you might give up a big play. You just want to play it safe, and I don't think he played it safe. And it hurt him. It really did. But I think the coaching staff still likes him. He's still going to get more opportunities. It's only the first preseason game. We still have to reiterate that a lot. But he definitely gave up a really big play, a really bad play, and it's just not a great look. Because it's really hard to make the team as a UDFA. We have to keep in mind that 99% of UDFAs rarely ever make the roster, and even if they do, they're usually developmental practice squad guys that may still never see the NFL field even after the fact. So, yeah, I mean, it's just not something you want to see, but it's not the end of the world for Key. Just the harsh reality is these UDFAs have to be almost perfect to earn any sort of roster spot, and he definitely wasn't perfect. Heading on to my last loser and the last player we're going to mention for the video, Mike Remmers. He didn't play in the game. He's been dealing with an injury, but I think he lost some ground in the right tackle battle to Lucas Niang, because Lucas Niang looked really good in the first preseason game. He was one of the highlights along the new offensive line, and he really held his own. And, he's not going against any all-world pass rushers in this game. And again, only limited snaps, but Lucas Niang, I was worried about him after some of his training camp reps because he was getting beat a lot, and I was hoping that wasn't actually him as a player, that was more so just kind of the practice environment and everything getting to him, because those one-on-ones can be deceiving. They don't mean a lot. It's really hard to be a tackle in one-on-ones because there's no other players around you. You just have to block this one guy, and he's got all this space and everything like that. So one-on-ones for tackles and offensive linemen, they can be really deceiving, and one rep doesn't mean a whole lot. But he was getting beat a lot in training camp, so it was good to see him hold his own in his first preseason game. And Mike Remmers not being out there, even though he had an injury, like, this hurts him because I think Lucas Niang made a case for himself being the starting right tackle. I still think Mike Remmers has a great shot at being the starting right tackle come week 1 because Lucas Niang is still pretty much a rookie and he still has some ways to go. But he definitely lost some ground, I thought, Mike Remmers. He and Lucas Niang, it's going to be probably the tightest battle among all the positions for the Chiefs this rest of training camp and preseason. But I definitely think Mike Remmers comes out of this as a loser. So there you have it. Those are my 4 winners and losers from the first preseason game. Like I said, there's probably a lot more that I didn't mention that you guys have in mind. If so, let me know in the comments. What are some of your biggest takeaways? Who do you think made a leap and who do you think took a step back in the first preseason game? Let me know if you agree, disagree with anything with that I said. Please let me know as well. We'll have a nice little debate in the comments like I always do. But all that being said, make sure you like, share, and subscribe so more Chiefs fans can find this. And check out my work on showmefootball.com and kckingdom.com. Peace.